So at some point, many founders have the same quiet thought: my business is out of control. Now, it's not necessarily because revenue's falling, but because everything feels urgent or reactive or heavy. Decisions pile up, problems never stop, and no matter how hard you work, it doesn't feel like you're catching up. So in this video, I'll show you why that feeling isn't a personal failure and why it's almost always a structural problem, which is good news. And more importantly, I'll show you the specific mechanism that causes control to collapse, and here's where the good news is at: how you can restore it without having to work harder. All right, so many businesses, when they're growing and scaling, go through periods where they feel like they're losing control or things are starting to get beyond what the leader can manage or handle. And that's very, very common and very normal, and one of the primary reasons why leaders stop pursuing growth or even sabotage growth is because there's an anxiety that can build up of, I can't see what's going on. So let me explain this. There's probably two reasons for it. It's not because you're intrinsically in a state of chaos. That's probably not what's actually going on. It might be what it feels like, but it's not probably what really is going on, that things are just so chaotic that they cannot be organized or lined out. What typically happens, what people interpret as an inability to get in control of things, is a lack of visibility into what's currently happening and the lack of the ability to foresee what will happen. So this is to see what's going on now, and this is to be able to see what or anticipate what will likely happen in the future. I have watched successful business owners of small businesses build a business that, while it's struggling, they can see what's going on right now. They're frustrated with the struggles, but they can see it, and they can kind of anticipate where they need to go because things are moving so slow because of the struggles, that once they start to clean stuff up and things start to pick up some momentum and move, they struggle to see what's going on now because there's so many moving parts and they're happening quickly, and that makes it impossible for them to foresee. That creates anxiety, and so they actually will sometimes shut their business down. Or in another scenario, this is a business that I'm familiar with. Somebody was catching me up on where they're at or what's going on. This was a leader that had built their business up to about 15 million in revenue, and then it had crashed down. They called me, I helped them out. They built it back up, and he's actually managing it back down. Not working with them, I haven't worked with them for a couple of years. They're managing it back down to a place where they can intuitively, it's a sad thing about that particular client, because in his case, he didn't want to exercise the disciplines. He just didn't want to, is really what it came down to. He didn't want to exercise the disciplines that I'm teaching here. They're not that complicated, but he didn't want to do it. So he likes and prefers to operate things intuitively, which is where many, many, many businesses are. Owners just like to, executives just like to, I kind of know what's going on. I kind of know what people should be doing. And when that maxes out, people tend to stop growth. So if you want to grow, things feel chaotic, you need visibility, you need to be able to foresee things. You can have visibility and you can foresee when you get away from an intuitive model and you create structures that give you predictability. Structures that give you predictability. When you know this position always does these things. This is what this position is supposed to handle. It's not different depending on the role or the person we hire. This position, our front desk person, our project manager for this, our shift manager for that, whatever the titles are that you have, you've got a structure in place that creates predictability. That allows, it makes it easier for you to recognize and see what's going on right now. It creates the ability to foresee into the future. So I want to talk a little bit about how to create this structure that gives you the predictability so that you can see more effectively. So when a business feels out of control, it's usually because structure hasn't kept up with growth. Without clarity around that, everything tends to feel urgent and reactive. If you are a business owner and you want an objective way to identify where control is breaking down and what needs to change first, I have a tool that you can use. It's called the Value Builder Assessment. It's a free assessment designed to surface structural weaknesses, risks, and areas where you can regain control. Additionally, it will identify high impact ways to both strengthen your business and improve its value. You'll find the link to that in the description. And if you find this helpful, please like the video. And if you'd like to continue to receive great content like this, subscribe here. I'm keeping this simple, and there's a lot of detail you can put into this if you want, but there's really two small structural fixes that if you put them into place now, they will start to give you that structural answer, the structural needs that you have, that give you the predictability, that give you that visibility and the ability to foresee where you're going. So the first one is to have applied strategic frameworks. Just one framework, actually. So an applied strategic framework. So what this means, I talk about this in other videos, but what this means in brief is that you have clearly defined values that have been operationalized. So if you say customer service is a value, you've taken a sentence or two to describe this is what customer service means to us. This is what quality customer service means to us. Values, an effectively designed value statement tells you which kinds of decisions are our kinds of decisions are acceptable and appropriate for us, and what kinds of behaviors also fit us. How do you treat other people? How do you act? If people have guidance with your values, there should be 3 to 5. Fewer might not be enough. I find that typically if you have more than 5 values, then you start setting yourself up just for confusion and they stop meaning anything. So usually 3 to 5 values are enough to provide guidance. What are the most important ones that inform how decisions should be made and what kinds of behaviors are acceptable? So that's the first major piece of the framework. The second major piece of the framework is vision, which is what are we building? It's the answer to that question. What are we building, or where are we going? When people have a sense of where we're going and they know how decisions are supposed to be made and how they're supposed to behave in the pursuit of this vision, that answers all kinds of questions. That's your strategic framework or a decision-making framework. And then the last piece of this, there's 3 ingredients, is priorities. You can call them other things, annual objectives, annual goals, but these are the top, usually again, 3 to 5 priorities that you're pursuing in a time-bound period, usually 1 year. Could be 8 months, could be a year and a half, but it's within a reasonable short time frame. If you know, here's how we're supposed to make decisions and behave, this is ultimately what we're trying to build, and this is what we need to get done this year, and you give that to your management team, then they're able to make all kinds of decisions in a way that's predictable and is likely to be in alignment with how you would make decisions, and that allows them to take load off of your plate so it doesn't feel like it's too much and that it's out of control. And if all of your management team and all of your skilled professionals, technically skilled tradespeople, whatever you're working with, they all have the same understanding of what their values look like where they work, where you're trying to get to ultimately, and what the priorities are right now, then they move in alignment together. So that's a major component. The second major component that you want to have in place is SOPs for reoccurring processes. So anything that is going to be reoccurring, if you're going to do something, once a year, that would probably be the minimum. So when you're getting ready for tax time or when you're getting ready for some kind of reporting, and it's a once a year thing and you don't want to have to relearn how to do the whole thing and have to refigure it out, one of those years, sit down and write out your standard operating procedure, your SOP, for here's the steps that you go through. These are the 8 steps that you need to go through to do X, so that whoever is sitting down, even if they've done it before, they don't have to remind themselves how to do it. It's all written down. If this is something that you have to do on a regular basis and you have to train people how to do on a regular basis, if it's written down, it makes the training process much easier. Here's what's really happening, is you're starting to codify, or you're starting to record the basic ways that you do things so that they're done the same way each time. You're writing the recipe down so that whatever you're cooking is made the same way each time. Doesn't matter who's cooking it. Because of these 2 structures, all by themselves, you can build franchises so that when you walk into a McDonald's where I live in Alaska, or I go to a McDonald's in Florida, probably the chances are highest that a Big Mac is going to look the same, taste the same, whether you like it or don't. It's going to be probably the same thing. It's probably going to be wrapped the same way. It was probably cooked the same way. It's probably being delivered to me in about the same way, because they wrote recipes based off of this all the way through. So you can go to any franchise owner and say, this is how you train your team. Here's the SOP for cooking a burger, for wrapping the burger, for the sauces you put on the burger, and for how you hand it to the customer. It's all written down. There's no guesswork. There's no creativity in it. And the benefit of that can be that you have a high level of visibility into what's going on. And if things stop working, you know what the steps should be, so it's easier to get in and troubleshoot it. And you have the ability to foresee that I know that if I take a vacation, I want to be gone for 2 weeks, but everybody knows the SOPs and what we're trying to accomplish. So I expect that when I come back in 2 weeks, things should be running like this, and you should be able to forecast that pretty well, pretty accurately. Once you have those things in place, your business will not feel out of control in the same way. So control is not restored by you putting out more fires faster. It's restored by giving decisions some place to live. And when you have a structure like this, you can give decisions to your management, and now these decisions belong with our administrator, these decisions belong with our ops manager, these decisions belong with our sales manager, and they can manage those things for you, and they don't come to you. And they will manage them in a way that has alignment with what you're hoping for or what the company's trying to build, because you've defined that. In a healthy organization, the leader or the owner is not involved in day-to-day decisions. So if you find a sense of pride in being involved in all this stuff day-to-day, that's okay. That's fine. You just have to accept along with that, you've built a company that's fragile and not resilient. It's depending on your ability to show up and hold everything together, and how broadly your intuition can kind of capture and contain everything, which has a limit to it. And so if you want to go beyond that, you don't have to, but if you want to, then you want to begin to build these things out. And in a healthy company that's growing, and to be able to grow, the leader needs to be able to step out of the day-to-day, needs to be able to focus on strategic direction setting and maintaining that direction and accountability for that, on system improvements, making sure that all of this is built well and it's working, making sure that culture is being nurtured and guided so that it works the way you want things to be. Culture really has a lot to do with how values are showing up in decisions and behaviors throughout the workplace. You're working on key relationships, and you're handling decisions that are appropriate for your level within the company, but you're not, and you're training and mentoring other people to manage their decisions, but you're not doing it for them. If the leader has to be involved in the day-to-day, you have not yet built a business that is prepared to scale. And so your level of evaluating, are we ready to grow? If that's a question for you, it should be impartially answered by, to what degree does the leader have to step into day-to-day activities? So you can begin to get out of this. I just had a conversation with a client about this recently, and my recommendation was make a list, take 15 minutes. Do a brainstorm of all the things that you need to do over the last week, over the last month. Which of those things, it doesn't have to be a precise list, doesn't have to be complete, just brainstorm whatever comes to mind, all the kinds of tasks that you had to carry, responsibilities you carried. Which ones of those do you kind of feel like somebody on your team should be carrying that, whether you have them on your team yet or not? But it doesn't seem like that's what you should be doing. Develop a plan for handing these over. And when you have clearly defined values, clearly defined vision of what you're trying to get to, and priorities and SOPs for those tasks, you can hand them off to somebody with confidence. When a business feels out of control, the solution is not more urgency or more effort. Control is created through clarity, structure, and intentional change. Once you start restoring control, the next challenge is deciding, where do I need to focus first? That's why in the next video, I'll walk you through the steps to save a business that might be losing money or momentum, and how to identify what's really broken, and practical steps to lead recovery without panicking or guessing. you can watch that video right here. Just remember, loss of control is structural, and structure is how it's regained.